Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Big Brother Canada 11 Roundtable podcast. I'm your host, Taran Armstrong, and I am here today to talk through everything that we know from the Big Brother Canada 11 drops. And with me to do it is Aysha. How you doing, Aysha?
Hey, Taran, I am doing well. I have never been able to fit in so much television during a Big Brother season. I'm on Amazon Prime finding shows. I just was like, oh my goodness, it's glorious. So that is the one upside. But then I will say, I feel like what we're doing here tonight, and what y'all have to do every week, is as if you turn on the afternoon or the evening news and they're telling you news from 2 days ago, and you're like, okay, is this relevant? No, because so much has changed in the world. What if they're telling you about a gas leak and you're finding out about it 48 hours later and you're like, well, what am I supposed to do now? That's what I feel like we're doing.
Yeah. Sometimes it feels like I'm doing almost as much work for considerably less return.
Yeah.
It's not very fun. Also with me today is Melissa. How you doing, Melissa?
I'm doing all right. Yeah, I totally agree. I feel like it's what we're doing here tonight is completely pointless. Like that's how I feel.
Let's calm down.
No, I just mean in terms of like, look, there is a point in that we like are having fun and we're just like the chat is enjoying themselves, I hope. And
The
that
real winner are the friends you made along the way,
right,
Melissa.
that's exactly what it is. The one thing is that like none of what we're saying is like accurate or truthful or means anything. And like I just like after watching the episodes last week after we did this, it was like, oh, okay, so like really all our ratings were garbage and that we had no idea like who was actually playing the game and who wasn't and what everyone's doing, and like we just like had no knowledge to go off of. And it was, and just like Aysha said, it was like we were using old information to try to say like how people are currently doing in the game. And it's like, we have no clue. And so much happens in the Big Brother house so fast. It just changes, all the time, minute by minute. And we are just so far behind that we're just like talking nonsense. And it's fine for us to do that. And it's fun. And it's like, I still enjoy, talking about it. But like, it's just like, I could literally say anything. Like my ratings could be anything and nobody could say otherwise because it's like, we don't even know. So I could be like, yeah, well, you know what? Actually, I think Claudia's playing a 10 out of 10 game. And it's like, who knows? I didn't see her anywhere this week. Like, I don't know. So it's just like, it's very much like a guessing game. And it's just kind of like doing it without any knowledge or information. And that's fine.
Yeah, no offense to Survivor, but that's how I feel about a Survivor commentary. And pretty much anything other than Big Brother. It's all just made up nonsense.
It is true. It's like you have to like, I mean, I guess at least for Survivor, you can kind of analyze like the way it's portrayed to you, like the way it's presented to you.
Yeah.
Is like, yeah, like that's really what you could
analyze.
go off of. But for Big Brother, it's like, well, it's not like the production, it's not like the editors or whatever have any idea like who's winning the game. So it's not like they're going to be like editing it in a way that makes the winner look better or anything, because we don't know who the winner is. It's like real-time events, but not presented to us in real time. I don't know. It just, yeah, who knows?
That's why I think the solution honestly is, if you're not going to have feeds, just do a pre-recorded show. Just give us an edited version. I would be totally okay with that.
I would much more prefer that.
If I can see a little bit of Vanessa, if I can see a little bit of, the people that are on the block, that might help to see why things happen.
It's just work.
Like, we don't, and then they won't have to go through the trouble of editing 3 episodes a week.
Yeah, that's
one episode.
Yeah, like if we don't get the feeds, like I'm totally cool with us finding out later, because then at least like the episodes, like we'll get more footage of the people who matter. Like at this point, we don't know who's going to win. So it's totally possible that the person who's going to win this game has not been showed at all on the episodes. And it'd be much better for them to know in advance and then create a coherent storyline to present to us in a fun, engaging way instead of this.
Yeah. Well, the one upside perhaps is that I feel more like I'm playing the game with them, in the sense that I know probably as much as any individual player in the game knows, and having to make calls based on that. So that's kind of, I guess, interesting to some degree.
Yeah, because we don't have the full picture. We have no idea about some people's games. Even the people that we are seeing, we have no idea about their games, because it's just like a completely different idea when we watch the digital dailies, and then when we get to the episode, it's like, what is real? What's reality? I just don't understand which should I dive into. If I'm gonna get such a different picture from the digital dailies than what people are actually thinking, then I'm like, okay, I need to stop looking into the digital dailies, because it's just watching it's like the digital dailies are like fan fiction and then the episodes are what actually will happen.
Well, we do have a bit of a wild ride of a week so far. At least that's what it seems to be. Because, of course, Kuzi won the HOH. Now, her initial nominee choices seemed to be, and it's possible this was never real in the first place. Let's just be very clear about this. The narrative that is formed through what we found out is that Kuzi intended to put Vanessa and Santina on the block, with Santina as the target and Rob as the backup target, or sorry, Dan as the backup target if anything went wrong with the veto. But that's only really what she told Ty. We never really saw her like discuss it with like herself or with somebody that she trusted more than Ty, theoretically. Granted, she said she trusted Ty in her diary room, but I think it's pretty clear at this point that that is either no longer the case or never really truly was the case. So it's entirely possible that was a fake plan to begin with. But the narrative from there is that Vanessa may have won the safety from Canada, but I don't think we even for sure know that at this point. We're just kind of assuming because the plan has changed, and it seems like that might be the case. And so instead, Kuzi put Hope on the block along with Santina, presumably still to take Santina out, but in the time that things have happened and Hope ends up winning the veto, her mind has changed to her backup plan, except now her backup plan is no longer Dan, it's Zach. So there's kind of like a few different ways this could have happened. It could have happened the way that we kind of saw it happen, where that really was the plan. Vanessa gets saved by Canada, Hope goes up, he wins the veto, and then Zach pisses Kuzi off so much that she decides, you know what, I'm just going to put Zach up on the block instead of Dan now. And that might be what happened. It also could have been, as I said, could have been that she was lying to Ty in the first place. She never intended to put those people on the block or never intended for Santina to be the target. Maybe she was, always going to put Hope on the block, or maybe the only reason she put Hope on the block is because he volunteered, and maybe that's why she didn't put Vanessa on the block. But maybe Dan was never the backup target. Maybe it was always Zach. And she just didn't tell Ty that until she knew it was going to happen. There's all kinds of different things that could have happened. One of the things that I feel that we don't know for sure, but that I'm kind of predicting it seems to be a thing, is that Kuzi references that she has 6 people on her side, and Ty, Zach, and them have like 3 to 4 people on their side, which implied to me, along with Renee telling Hope to go along with what Kuzi wants this week, implying that she knows that Zach's going to go up on the block, that Kuzi, Anika, and Daniel have teamed up with the girly pops, Renee, Claudia, and Shania, to form some kind of group of 6 to take Zach out this week. So whether that was always the plan, whether it became the plan, we can't really know for sure. But what we do know is that it does seem to be the plan right now.
See, that's the tough thing about only getting one conversation. And I get that, like, I'm sure production or whoever is like, oh, well, this conversation is like giving insight into what Kuzi's thinking. Like this conversation with Ty is giving insight into what Kuzi's thinking in regards to nominations. So let's include that. got that one covered. Now let's have a conversation with so-and-so talking to so-and-so. But it's like, if we're not seeing the follow-up conversations that Kuzi's having, which we normally would with the feeds, like, we don't know if that conversation was truth. We don't know if that conversation was a lie. We don't know if that conversation was just her trying to like appease him or anything. Like, we don't know the context. So we don't know what we should be believing, what we shouldn't be believing. And it makes watching these updates, like these daily drops or whatever, like extremely difficult, because you don't know what is an actual strategy conversation and what is not. And so it's hard for me to get invested in it, because, you know, I don't know if what I'm watching is legit, and if I should be like thinking that, oh, okay, these are Kuzi's real nominations, or if I'm like, I wish I could see a real conversation with her real allies. Like, I just feel like I'm struggling to get interested. And I think like it sucks, because it's like, when I watch the conversations, I'm very into it, and I'm just like, okay, now I want to know what goes on next. And then like nothing, then we just watch something else, and we don't watch who she talks to next. We don't know anything further of the context, and it just is like, you're just fully once again reminded that like, oh yeah, we don't have feeds and this sucks.
Yeah, we're living in an alternate universe where we're having to wait for the episodes for the truth, which is
Which is
like,
insane.
yeah.
Well, let's be a little more accurate then. We're waiting for the episodes for a narrative.
Yeah, true.
Context.
Yeah. Very true. Yeah, and I see the intent behind the way that the daily digital dailies have been structured so far, to kind of, you know, they have the extra stuff, but then at least anything that's game related, they try to show us the conversations that happen that are about that specific thing. You know, unless we wanted to like today learn about how to do a proper RDL, which great. Thanks. I'm glad to know that Anika is, you know, on her game like that, because I didn't know that she was such could be such a physical threat.
I was also like, I didn't realize Anika was like into working out like this.
Yeah, like 6 days a week, an hour a day, 2.5 hours on the weekend. It's like, you go, girl. But then it's like, okay, yeah, it's kind of like what Kuzi was talking about today, or on today's drop from yesterday, was everybody has their own game going on. So if we're being fed one storyline in these digital dailies, and then whatever else on the feeds, we're missing 70% of what's going on, because there could be a completely different narrative that's going on with Vanessa. And for all we know, Vanessa and Kuzi could have this secret duo going on, and just like, hey, we don't even have to meet. It could be like Kevin and the Ghost Alliance. Yeah. So it's just like, I don't know. That's what's making it hard, and I don't know how they can improve the digital dailies moving forward to give us a more well-rounded narrative in the 2 hours, or is it just, yeah.
I think the diary room segment was a good start for sure. I mean, you know, in lieu of the actual live feeds, you know, the idea that like, hopefully Kuzi would have told us if there was some sort of secret Vanessa connection in that diary room segment, right? So like, you know, hopefully that's the kind of thing that will continue to give us some extra context going forward. Granted, I feel like for this week at least, that the DR information became immediately outdated, because so much shifted, I think, immediately following it. So, and that's one of the reasons why I think, you know, it was tempting to believe, and it still is tempting to believe, that Kuzi was potentially being honest with Ty, at least for the most part, initially, because she said in the diary room he's the one that she trusts the most. I have to imagine that if she had another one of those DRs now, the answer would be different. So we'll see. But yeah.
I think one of the like good things that the digital dailies is like good for, or the thing that the digital daily is good for, is getting to know like their personalities a little more. Like, obviously you don't get the full picture, but like the only thing that I really can get from it is like, oh, Ty is extremely hard to talk to. Like every conversation is just like just horrible. Like just I would not want to be in a conversation with him. Like Zach is very, his way or the highway in every conversation he has, and like thinking that he's the smartest person in the room. And then like Santina with her whole like, oh, I don't get along with girls thing, like is a little frustrating. And then, Kuzi, like very fun and just like an easy conversationalist. Like you can kind of, the only thing you can really get, like, because the information gets so outdated so quickly and because we don't have the full context, the one thing that we can get from it is like, who are these people in terms of like their personality you can't even get the full picture of that, but you don't really necessarily need the entire picture of someone's personality to understand like how they are in the game. So I guess like that's like the one good thing if I were to give a compliment, but not even because that's like they're doing that well. It's more just like that's the only thing we're getting from it. So like I guess like thank you for that.
There you go. Well, let's talk about Kuzi's choice here, because even though we do lack the context for every reason why she's making the choice, we can try and sort of assess whether we think it's good or not, knowing what we know. So kind of like what we did with Survivor. So Kuzi is deciding to take this shot at Zach. When Hope uses the veto on himself, she intends to put Zach on the block. I again think that she feels she has the votes to take him out because she has the girly pops, she has Daniel and Anika, and she would likely also have Jonathan and Vanessa. Now, we know that there's actually a chance she doesn't have Daniel. And it's, again, theoretically possible that that the girly pops are not as locked in as Kuzi thinks they are. Especially because they have no love lost for Santina, and they are all connected to the guys who would want to keep Zach around. So, if we're looking at votes, would she still have the votes if she has Anika, Jonathan, and Vanessa? If she's missing Daniel, even if she has Daniel, basically those girly pops can decide the vote if that's the case. So, kind of a dangerous game to play, but again, she might feel very confident that she has those women, and we haven't seen those conversations. But I would imagine that they don't plan to betray her at this time. I think they all actually do want Zach out. It's just a matter of would they reconsider. And I don't think it's super likely that they would. I think that if Zach goes up, I do think he actually has a very good chance of going home. In fact, I would still qualify him as the person most likely to go home this week by a large margin at this point, even given some of the outs that he has, including this vote thing and also Ty's sort of play to get Hope to either not use the veto or use it on Santina, which I feel like won't work. But who knows?
I don't know. Don't underestimate Hope. Well, on that Daniel C point, I understand that he's frustrated because, well, actually, I don't understand his frustration because don't you want people in the game that look out for you? He's so frustrated that he thinks.
Well, that's why he wants Zach in the game.
It's so annoying because it's like one of the key conversations I can remember between him and Zach was Zach assuming that he didn't know something, and he's just like, no, I get it, like Zach speaking in code, and Daniel's like, no, I can see what's going on. I'm like, would you prefer to have someone like that in the game rather than allies who have that outside perspective? So I just think that's a little I don't know, maybe it's just like an ego or something, but I just feel like why be mad at your allies? It's hard enough making allies.
I mean, it's a little bit of a Memphis situation, and I like the Memphis play, which is like just do what you want and say I don't care what you want, allies. I'm just gonna do what you want. I'm gonna take out your ally, and you can kick and scream as much as you want, but I'm just gonna do me, and you can deal with it. That's kind of what Kuzi's doing to Daniel, right? And at the end of the day, he can kick and scream all he wants, but where does he go? Especially once Zach leaves, he kind of has to go back to Kuzi. And that's the value of playing like that. Now, there is obviously some downside to it as well. You need to be careful. But at the end of the day, if you're making a move that really benefits you, then that's what you should do. And then, then it's just a matter of selling it to your allies, which it seems like it's not being sold super well right now, but it is something that perhaps Daniel gets over, which he said he would. So it's a tricky situation to sort of figure out, because I've seen even in the community, like a bunch of people are like, Daniel, so pathetic. I can't believe you're crying over Zach. Why are you so in love with him? Because of what Kuzi's saying about Daniel. But that's not really what Daniel has said about Daniel. Right. And that's part of Daniel's frustration, is like that Kuzi's making it out to be like he's in love with Zach, and that's why he wants Zach to stay, when in reality, he just sees Zach as a valuable game asset. And doesn't want Kuzi to take out one of his pieces for no reason, when Ty is way more dangerous, and so on and so forth, right? And so there's a lot of sort of like complicated and interesting relationship dynamics happening between Daniel and Kuzi. And I could see a world where this causes them to split apart after this week, and I could see a world where this is just a blip on the radar, and this was just him like really like immediately following the news that it's going to be Zach, and he'll get over it in a day, like he said he would, right? So I'm very interested in seeing where this goes.
And the thing as well is that, like, we don't know what Zach and Daniel have. Like, we don't know if they do have like a good, like, working relationship. Like, we don't know. At this point, you're looking at it and you're like, huh? Like, I don't get it. Why is he so keen on keeping Zach? Zach is with Ty and the two of them are working together. But we don't know all the various intricate, like, small, like, alliances within the house, like the secret alliances. We don't know what's going on. We don't know who has a game relationship with who. There could be a situation where Zach and Daniel have been working together, like, low key the whole time, and we're sitting here like, that Daniel, don't make a stupid move, like get rid of Zach. But really, it doesn't make any sense for him to get rid of Zach. Like, we don't know. And so it's very hard to determine whether or not Daniel is making like the right choice in, fighting to keep Zach, or not voting him out, or whatever, when we don't know the context.
Yeah, for what it's worth, in Daniel's diary room, he said that he didn't trust any of the boys in the house, including Zach. And at the time, he said he trusted Kuzi the most. I think from Daniel's perspective, he, like Anika, and how Anika sort of puts this, because Anika does agree with Daniel ultimately, although she's less emotional about it, which is that, like, why are we taking Zach out for the women when they're connected to Ty, and Ty's way more dangerous? Like, why are we doing this? This puts us in a compromising position, especially when we have inroads with Zach and they don't, right? And so I think that's a legitimate sort of point to make. Kuzi doesn't seem to hear it. She seems to have a different idea of like where things will go from here. And again, for all we know, she's correct and they're not. Especially if it's like, maybe they're correct for their games, but maybe she's got something that we don't know about, or that they don't know about on the side, that makes it make more sense for her. But again, either way, I would say, this is definitely causing some kind of rift between the three of them ultimately. So yeah.
Yeah, and for all we know, after Zach found out from Ty that he might be going on the block, maybe he decided, okay, let me try to make things right with Kuzi. It goes wrong because Zach talks to people in an odd way. And then Kuzi's like, well, dang, I thought I could be honest with Ty, but clearly not. He's just going to run back and tell Zach everything. So actually, Ty might be the person I need to go after. So,
I don't think it's impossible. I don't,
yeah.
because I do think that Ty's reaction to Kuzi telling him this news was pretty bad.
Yes.
I mean, he like went as far as to say that like, and again, like the way that Ty says things, even though it tends to be like not super nice, he does at least try to like code it with, you know, plausible deniability to a degree, right? Like he essentially calls her decision BS and a weak move. But the way that he says it is like, I'm not saying that your decision is BS and that it's a weak move. It's just a BS decision that's a weak move. And it's totally fine that you're making it, and I'm not mad about it. And so like, you know, depending on the person, and I feel like Kuzi's probably not the person to play with when it comes to that stuff. You might get offended by that. You might feel like, whoa, dude. And the fact that he runs straight down to Zach and he tells Zach and is like, just be careful about how you approach Kuzi, but you should try to apologize and get back in her good graces. And the fact that Ty is now trying to convince Hope to not use the veto, and if that comes out, you know, like Kuzi's gonna be like, how, what? And all of that, plus Anika and Daniel continuing to press like, hey, this is what we are telling you. Ty is more dangerous. I don't think it's impossible that Ty ends up on the block, but I do still think it's pretty unlikely, mostly because whether or not Kuzi is being completely genuine when she says it's a personal thing with Zach, and it's honestly, it might be completely genuine. Maybe she genuinely does feel like she's willing to lose the game in order to take Zach out of the game because he's that bad of a person and she just doesn't like him that much. That's totally possible. And if that's the case, then I don't see her changing her mind at all, right? But even if it's at least a little bit game, which I assume it kind of is. Most people, when they say things like this, they're kind of lying. It's probably at least a little bit game. But once you've said it out loud, it's hard to take it back. It's hard to be like, okay, I'm making a moral stand to take Zach out of the game. Can you believe what he said to Renee about being a pretty face? To then being like, actually, though, Ty was kind of a jerk too, so I'm instead gonna keep Zach around after all. Like that's kind of a hard pivot to make. But I like again, I don't think it's impossible, especially since there is like a full day from when we last saw the drop to the veto ceremony.
Right. And I couldn't see, and it's funny that they keep bringing, or Hope keeps bringing up his age. But I think that he seems like he's pretty naive. And I think that he could genuinely believe Ty and he wants to secure the votes, but I could see him going to Renee to kind of like, hey, I'm thinking about, I'm part of a bigger plan. I'm thinking about using the veto on Santina. And she's like, no, what are you talking about? Why would you do that? So I could see Renee specifically knocking some sense into him. But I do think that, I think it's very possible. But on that conversation with Ty, Big Daddy K is a smart woman. Okay. When he said he was trying to press home the point, he was like, you don't have to be HOH to make a big move. Zach bullied the last two HOHs to make a big move. See, you can make a big move without being an HOH. Why would she want to bully specifically use that word? And to him, it makes sense. Like, oh, he dominated it, but he said bully, and I think read the room a little bit. I don't think that I feel like Kuzi took note of that to say, oh, that's even more reason why Zach should go. And maybe I should look at you a little sideways that you think that that's cool and that you're fine with him dominating other people's HOHs, because it wouldn't stop now. So I could see her mind changing a little bit more on Ty. Maybe not as much to put him on the block, but to kind of reevaluate moving forward. Like, okay, Ty is not the number one person that I trust. I need to keep my eye on him, but I do need to weaken him by getting out Zach.
Yeah, I will say I am a little worried. I'm a little worried for Kuzi. I think there, as I said, not only just with this week, with things that could potentially go wrong with either the veto or the vote, but even just moving forward, like I said, I do kind of agree with Daniel and Anika, or at least the way that Anika put it, where it's like, Ty is connected to Claudia. Dan is connected to Shania. Hope is connected to Renee. Like, that is a ton of connective tissue to meld those two groups together. And it makes a lot of sense for those women to just be like, sure, and be able to play both sides. And Kuzi just spent like 30 minutes explaining to Ty why it makes no sense to target Renee or Shania in this game because they're not worth targeting. And it's like, okay, so if Ty or Dan win power next week, who are they supposed to look at? Certainly not Renee, Shania, or Claudia. Luckily, you still have, Jonathan and Vanessa around, but, Ty's trying to work on Jonathan. And all Jonathan kind of needs to do is be like, sure, bro. And like, he might feel like, okay, Jonathan's fine for now. And Vanessa's on an island. Kuzi just won an HOH. She just proved to him that he can't manipulate her. She's good at competitions. She's well connected. It makes a lot of sense for Ty or Dan or anybody that they can get to target Kuzi next week, and I don't like that.
Yeah, scary spot for her for sure.
Yeah.
But really, what's the move? To go with what they're saying and put up Renee?
That's the thing, right? Certainly not Renee. I think at this point, given all that's transpired, given that she's already told Ty she's looking at Zach, the cat's out of the bag, right? Like there's no putting it back in. At this point, I would honestly still say like maybe just at this point maybe just take the shot at Ty. It has to land though, which is the tricky part because it's possible it won't. Maybe Claudia gets Renee and Shania to not vote out Ty, and now all of a sudden you can't get rid of Ty, right? So that might not even be possible, but Ty leaving would be so much better for Kuzi, in my opinion, because that connective tissue between Zach and Dan and Hope is much more difficult. Zach is a barrier between Dan and Hope and the women. The women can never fully trust Dan and Hope as long as Zach is in the game. But when Zach is gone, it's open season, right? So if Ty's gone, you remove some of that connective tissue. Zach stays in the game as a barrier. Jonathan and Vanessa are still staunchly anti-Zach. Zach has to deal with Santina and Jonathan and Vanessa, and the women don't trust him. And there's a lot more room to play around from my perspective, at least. But again, my perspective is kind of limited.
Yeah, it's tough too because we have very limited information about Claudia. So even with that plan, if removing Zach and thinking that like Claudia is so locked in with Ty, is she? Because
that's Kuzi's hope, right?
Yeah,
that's what she said to Anika. She was hoping that Claudia would stick with the women, essentially, I think, and not go with Ty. Like from my perspective, it's like, even if that was her inclination, is she really gonna say no if Ty, Hope, and Dan are like, let's make a thing? Of course not, right? Like they're gonna have the middle position whether they search for it or not. And that's good for them, but it's not great for for the previous middle people.
Ty is acting like it's off limits for him to talk any ounce of game with Claudia.
It's true.
I don't understand it.
Their connection is like the most bizarre thing I've ever seen, where he'll like bring her up too when it's like people that can't be trusted or something. And it's like, what are you talking about? Like, why can't you trust her? Like, why are you in a showmance with her and you literally won't share any information with her and she can't share any information? It's just like, I don't know what they're like getting out of it. Like, it just doesn't make any sense to me. I'm so confused by that.
Knee rubs.
Like, hey, if it's worth it, it's worth it, I guess.
And
crazy.
it's weird because like even today when he came down, she's like, okay, what did Kuzi say? And he's like, we'll see. Like, y'all were up there talking for literally half the daily was y'all's conversation. And that's as much as you can give Claudia. And it's just pointless. I mean, it kind of helps us see his mind, how he thinks when he was talking to Kuzi. And Kuzi was saying somebody was romantically involved. And he's like, what does that have to do with game? Like, well, if you have a showmance with someone that helps you in the game, especially if you have a showmance right now, y'all have different game objectives. Maybe it would benefit y'all to share notes so then y'all have the full picture. Y'all would have more information than we do.
Right. It's better. It's so much better. Like, that's the benefit of being in a showmance. Like, yeah, obviously you get to have that connection with someone, blah, blah, blah. But like, that's somebody that you can absolutely trust because you have something built with them that's larger than the game, that's like outside of the game. So you're able to fully be honest with them and share information with them and all that sort of stuff. Like, that would be like the one benefit game wise of being in a showmance. And they're not taking advantage of that. And if anything, they're like purposefully not doing that. And it's very, very strange to me.
It's like Claudia wishes they would. She tries to ask questions, but it's like you can only be denied for so long. And someone in the chat said one of the deleted scenes says that Claudia does not trust Ty. But, you know, who's she talking to?
Right. And I would say again, like, you know, I think it's important to try to sort of like look into the future, right? And if Zach is gone, who else does Ty have to scheme with? Like, he's not scheming with Dan. He's not scheming with Hope, right? And so I think Zach is one of the main reasons why Claudia can't get on the same page as Ty, because Claudia can't get on the same page as Zach. But once Zach is gone, who does Ty have left to go to? It's certainly possible that he's still a colossal like idiot and just like still doesn't talk to Claudia. But even if he doesn't talk to Claudia, it still doesn't make sense for the girly pops to ever bother targeting any of those three men that they're connected to. Because Ty's never targeting Claudia, nor is he ever likely to target Renee or Shania at this point. Hope is never targeting, as far as Renee is concerned, the three of them. Dan is never targeting Shania. So like they're going to focus their efforts elsewhere. Probably at Santina would be the first person that they look at. And then probably Vanessa after that, or maybe even Jonathan, depending on how connected Claudia feels with Jonathan. I think they might be reconnected, which was only really, frankly, even more dangerous. But at the very least, even if they never fully connect in the game, even if they don't share information, they don't trust each other, there's just not enough of a game reason for them to ever target each other at this point, which is all that really needs to be looked at. From my perspective, at least. I think the thing that I wanted Kuzi to do, and it's possible this was never possible, but you know, I talked about like there was a point at the beginning of this week where Ty was pushing to get Dan out, and the way that I sort of envisioned how this week could have gone is that like if Kuzi is like, okay, Ty, you've convinced me, Dan is such a big threat to me. Let's make Dan the play. Like I just want to, for as long as Ty is making the mistake of trying to take out Dan, I want to take advantage of that before he comes to his senses and realizes that makes no sense for his game. Unfortunately, it seems like he has come to his senses and realizes it makes no sense for his game. So it's just a tricky situation, and I'm not sure there's a way out of it. For as much as I think Kuzi's best play at this point is to take out Ty, as I said, it's possible that's not possible for her anymore. If Ty goes on the block, even if we say Kuzi has Jonathan, Vanessa, Daniel, and Anika, she needs one more vote. She needs one more vote to send Ty out. She would need one of the girly pops or Hope to make it happen. And if the girly pops are not with her and Hope is with the guys, there's just no way to get Ty out.
So that's assuming Hope is not on the block. He uses it on Santina, and Kuzi's like, okay, actually, Ty, you're on the block. Then, hey, Renee's not voting out Hope.
There you go. That's actually what if Ty sent himself home by getting Hope to use the veto on Santina? Because you're right. I think if Hope is on the block next to Ty, Ty's gone.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
I mean, that's an opportunity right there.
That would be beautiful television if it happened.
Not since not since Daniel. Somebody misplayed a veto so poorly.
Right.
Oh, geez.
Oh, yeah.
All
I mean,
right.
I guess we'll know the truth. Well, not the true story, but we'll be closer to knowing what direction the week can go with tomorrow's episode. Because I guess we'll have a better idea of where Kuzi's head is at with her original plans. However, so much could have changed after the veto, which is not until Thursday. That aftermath. So we have a rough week ahead. Maybe tomorrow's digital daily will be eye-opening.
I hope so. I mean, I'm hoping that there's just like more to this on Kuzi's end that will make this make more sense to me. Because the thing is that I do feel like Kuzi has shown me that she is like a very smart and capable player in the game. And so I like part of me assumes based on history that there's got to be more to this than she has shown in the drop so far. But like more than what she told Ty, more than even what she told Anika, where it's like something has to make a little more sense. And that's where part of me, again, I think maybe part of it is this girly pops thing. Maybe she also does have something going with Jonathan and Vanessa. I don't think that would quite be enough to make this make a ton of sense to me, but like it's also potentially just making the best out of a bad situation at this point. That's possible. I still think taking out Dan wouldn't be the worst move in the world either, because Dan is another player, again, who like once Zach is gone, it's Dan, he's either going to follow Ty or he's going to follow Shania. And either way, you don't have that connection to him, and he's really good at competitions. So taking him out would be fantastic for your game. Leaving Zach in for the girly pops to have to deal with would be great. Again, like I feel like that's all stuff that could theoretically work. But it's again, maybe that's another spot where like maybe Dan can't go either because maybe the girly pops aren't with you on that. But I mean, again, all of this is telling me that the girly pops are in control. Right? So we will see. We will see. All right.
Yeah, I could see myself really liking Claudia as a player once she detaches from Ty. It's just you see glimpses and I'm just like, I'm waiting to get the full picture. And then am I just continuing to write fan fiction? Maybe is there nothing there? I don't know. Maybe, I don't know if it'll need to be a situation where she finally cuts ties from Ty, or Ty finally starts talking game with her. So we're able to see a little bit more of that, because he's been, I think of all people, he's been one of the stars of the digital dailies. Like if we had to have if the Bachelor Data person did Big Brother Canada, and you would see Ty and Zach, they are up there. Whereas like are Vanessa, Jonathan, and Santina even on the show?
Yeah.
Or in the house?
All right. Should we rate these players?
Yes.
Okay. Well, this is the portion of the podcast, of course, where we rate the players from 1 to 10 based on how well we think they are doing in the game, based on the information given to us and the events that have not transpired yet. I have seen some people like, why don't you just wait? Why don't you just wait and rate them later? To which I would ask, when?
Yeah, literally, we do episode recaps on the episode days. And so then what? Like Friday, Saturday, or Sunday? Like that doesn't give us any information either. Like, I don't know what we're supposed to do.
I think the perfect time would be midnight on Wednesdays.
Yeah, literally. And it's like, okay, maybe not.
Because you also you got to give people time to listen to it before it's completely out of date, because there's a new HOH and everything, right? Like you don't want to be talking about a previous week in the middle of like, hey, guess what? Ty just won the next HOH. Let's talk about Kuzi's HOH week.
Yes. Let's go back.
And it's like I would love to like do it on Tuesday like we would normally do, but there's an episode on Tuesday. We have an episode
Mhm.
recap, and that's asking people to basically listen to like upwards of 4 hours of podcasts before like the next episode.
Yeah.
Essentially, like it's just a lot, unfortunately.
It's too much.
Yeah.
Yeah, if they just would go back to the normal episode schedule, we could figure it out.
So look, this is part of the charm of this season. We are given what we are given, and we are trying to make the best of it. The ratings are going to be slightly incomplete because the information we have is immensely incomplete. So yes, it truly is what it is. All right, so let's pull up the ratings here. Let's talk through how we feel about these players. Oh, you know what? I never went through the survey questions. Let's do a little bit of survey answers. Let's see. How would you rate the episodes of Big Brother Canada this week? I will say we got a little bit of a jump this week. Last week it was a 2.9. This week, a 4.5. Almost average.
Whoa. Wow.
Sorry, a 4.4. I just refreshed the page.
Not good. Sorry, back down. Not good anymore.
I asked how you rate the drops this week. Last week was a 1.8. This week, a 3.9. The highest rating yet.
Wow.
I could see it. I could see it being a 3.
I mean, there were so number one, I'm assuming that includes the diary room.
I would assume so, yeah.
Right. So like that's definitely better than what we had been getting. And then also I did notice that there were a lot more conversations, like strategy conversations and conversations where, well, first of all, conversations with the HOH and also conversations where it was like talking specifically about like nominations and like the plans or whatever. Like, whereas previously it was like few and far between when we'd have number one, a conversation with the HOH, or number two, a conversation about like actual strategy and not just like general talk. So I think overall, like, I think this week was certainly better content for the daily drops, but I would have to agree that maybe it's like a 3 or less.
Yeah, the audience is rating like I'm rating this season, which is that 5 is the maximum out of 10. So 5 is like a 10 out of 10.
Yeah, exactly.
I
in the middle.
I'm trying to think of like how could they make it better? How could we get this rating up? And I think if they had a goal, like I don't think we should be coming out of the digital dailies on Fridays or Saturdays and still not know the noms. Like we shouldn't be debating on Twitter who was nominated on Sunday. Like we're too far into the week. And I think if it's, if you highlight those conversations, like we do see that in the feeds before when they come back, they're intentionally showing us who is nominated based on who's having conversations. So I feel like that wouldn't be too difficult to make that an agenda, like
curate the content.
Yeah, I mean, like, look, I'm not trying to dunk on anyone. I'm sure the people in charge of putting this together are under like strict time constraints and whatever, right? But like, this is what I do, like you give me the footage from the weekend, I could put together essentially a video of live feed update that is essentially the update that we're talking about. All of those things, I could just put them all together into one thing, one narrative that tells you all of the things that you need to know that happened, skipping all of the nonsense that you didn't need to know. It wouldn't be that hard.
Right.
I promise I do it all the time, minus the video editing portion of it. But I am also a video editor, and I know what it takes to put those together. And let me tell you, it wouldn't be that hard.
This is your official application.
Well, it's like, I mean, put some effort into it. Like, just, I don't know. I just feel like it's like we are getting like the bare minimum amount of work on these things where it's like, I mean, I'm like praising them because we got some conversations with the HOH. Like, that's wild. Like, we should obviously be getting conversations with the HOH. Like, if you're going to give us 2 hours, make those a good 2 hours. Don't have just random stuff. Like, I mean, how are we still getting footage where one person's microphone's not on and the other, like, we can't hear what's going on, or like they switch cameras and we're seeing a bunch of other people eating, but we're hearing someone else in a bedroom talk. It's like, why is that happening? I don't understand why.
Work.
Like, that's the thing, is like, give us something. Don't just give us nothing. I don't understand why it's, yeah, I don't know. Yeah.
Yeah, it does feel like whoever's putting together the digital dailies were not around when live feeds were happening. Well, because there's no way.
It's like, you know how if you tell somebody that doesn't know about Big Brother about the live feeds, they're like, what?
Yeah.
You just watch them like eating and sleeping and like just doing nothing? That makes no sense. It's like, no. Very few people actually want to watch those things. But it's like the people who are making the show think that that's actually what people want to see.
They're like, okay,
oh, they want
here
live
you
feeds.
go.
I guess they want to see the vacuuming. That's part of it, right? They're weirdos. They're creeps.
Yeah, these guys are weirdos. Let's just give them what they want, which is eating. We want to see the house guests eating. We want to see them just standing there asking each other what they want for dinner. We want to see them picking out the ingredients from the fridge. It's like, that is not what I want to see. Like, we want to see them. Oh, they want to see them coming out of the bathroom and like, oh, they're in the shower and they're wearing a towel. Like, no, like that is not why we watch the live feeds. Like, we are watching the live feeds for the strategy and the ability.
All right,
for
well, let's
us,
not speak for the creeps because we know there are some out there.
There are
right?
some of those
we
out there. Yes,
the
of
creeps.
course, respectfully to them. There are some people out there who do enjoy that. I've seen the subreddit, but you know, I just feel like they're missing the fact that like we enjoy curating our own like experience, their own watching experience. Like, I can be like, I want to follow this person's day around because they're the key power player this week. Okay, like they're talking to so-and-so right here. Okay, let me switch cams because they just went to the other room. Now let me watch them there. Oh, they're not on the feeds right now. Fast forward. Let me go find them later. Like, you know, like, or just like, okay, I want to see what the HOH says to each person. I want to watch these conversations and I get to pick what I want to see and how long I want to watch it and if I want to watch it at all. And instead it's like we're giving curated content that's not curated. It's just like thrown at us like, okay, well, here you go. Here's like a random 2-hour smattering. That doesn't mean anything to you. I hope you like it. It's not it.
Yeah, we literally just push through all of that extra stuff so that we can get to the stuff that matters. Like, we know we want to watch right after the noms, right after the veto ceremony, the night before, or right after HOH. Everybody has those specific moments that they are watching the feeds. And so for the feeds watchers. And so I'm just not convinced whoever is editing these digital dailies ever has watched feeds or is tapped into what people care about.
They're like an absentee parent throwing bad candy at a child for dinner. Like, that's what kids like, right? This,
you like this?
licorice.
This is it.
It's like, no. And like, I don't know. It's like, yeah, obviously there are some times it's not like I only watch it just purely like one strategy conversation to another strategy conversation. Like, there are times where I like watch fun group conversations because like it makes me laugh, or I feel like, you know, I'm hanging out with them. Like, I am a weirdo maybe, but like it's not about that. Like, if I have to get only 2 hours of content, I don't want to watch just random nothingness. I want to watch like the good stuff. And I feel like I keep coming back to this like interview, but this is all we got from production is Arissa's interview where she was like, we want to give you the good stuff. Well, give it to us, please. Can we have it now? Can I have the good stuff now? Because I haven't been getting it. So I'd like to have the good stuff, please.
I have some more.
Please, may I have some more content?
All right. Well, the audience rates the season as a whole so far 3.5, up from the 2.1. Look at that. We are improving.
We're doing so well.
Competition's about the same, 2.8 compared to last week's 2.7. The Canada Saves twist, under the assumption that Vanessa won it, which is possible that she didn't, was given a 3.9, up from the 2.8 the first time they did it. And then I asked the audience to rate Kuzi's HOH, and she did receive the highest rating of the season so far, but that's not difficult because both of the previous ratings were 2.5. She got a 5.7 for her HOH this week.
And that's
Maybe.
largely
She
due
cracked
to
average.
we have no idea where her head is actually at. So
Well, the percentages here kind of tell the story. Do you agree with Kuzi's target? 61% say yes, 39% say no. It's kind of a mixed bag. People are kind of like, I imagine this split to me is exactly how I feel. Where I'm just maybe a little bit reversed, where I'm like 39% of me is like, yes. And 61% of me is like, I don't know.
Mhm. Totally.
And then who do you want to be evicted this week? 83% of the audience say Zach. Take him out. 10% want Santina, 7% want Hope.
Yeah, and I know people. Some people are living for the chaos that Zach brings. However, I think we would really see something from Ty if he loses Zach, because
Mhm.
he already thinks he's the smartest person in the house and that everyone is super weak. And so I can just only imagine him on a power trip. Just imagine Zach goes and then Ty wins HOH. Oh my gosh, it would be like people are living in his kingdom because his ego is so inflated. So I don't think that all hope is lost if Zach does leave. I would be perfectly
It would
fine
be
if Kuzi
hopeless.
got her way.
Yeah, I have no preference for who goes this week. It's fine. Whoever, it doesn't matter.
All right. Well,
Fair
I asked the
enough.
audience to rank the players from their favorite to their least favorite. Can you name the top 3, Asia?
I think top is
Ooh.
Kuzi. Sorry,
Yeah, I
I'm not
think
Asian,
for
but
sure. I was gonna say Kuzi. And then it's tough. I think that people may, well, not top 3. I was gonna say people might like Vanessa because of last week, but maybe Kuzi, Anika, Jonathan.
Okay, Melissa.
That's a good guess. Well, in the past, it had been like Daniel had been up there, but I feel like maybe with this whole like, oh, I want to keep Zach around, people might like be like, I know, I'm mad at him or whatever. And so like I feel like he's probably not up there. I think Renee moved up in the list, but I don't think she's top 3 yet. Or maybe she is. Maybe she is. I don't know. Maybe Vanessa, honestly, because she's been causing drama and people like that. And she like went against Zach and she went against Ty. So I think Kuzi's number 1. I think maybe I'll just go for it and say Renee and then Vanessa. I'm just gonna do it.
All right. You're both pretty incorrect apart from Kuzi.
Nice.
Kuzi is number 1. I'm going to give this one to Asia because Jonathan is number 2.
Oh.
So
Nice.
Asia at least got one of the other 2 in the top 3. And then Daniel is number 3.
Yeah.
All right. This one's easier. What about the bottom 3?
Oh, I think
Right.
honestly,
Zach,
I
Ty.
think yeah, Zach. I wouldn't be surprised if Ty is on the bottom and Zach is right above him, but maybe it's probably still Zach on the bottom, then Ty, then probably then Santina, but maybe not Santina because she kind of went against them, so maybe people would like that. But it did leave like kind of a sour taste in my mouth when she was saying she doesn't get along with girls. But honestly, maybe Hope, just because I'm over his whole thing. But I don't think other people feel the same way as me. Oh, that's tough. I guess I would just say Zach, Ty, and Santina probably.
I think like going from bottom up, I think it's Zach, Ty, and then I'm going back and forth actually between Dan S and Hope.
Oh, Dan S. I forgot about him. He's
So
probably down there.
Yeah,
Put
I'm
him
thinking
down there.
this
It's
with
him.
the HOH recency bias.
Totally
I'm gonna
forgot
say
who. I
Candace.
forgot he was in the house.
Yeah. Well, people doing the survey probably did too.
All right. Is that the
it's
call,
them.
Aysha?
Yes.
You're both correct. Zach on the
Yep.
bottom, Ty and Dan S bottom 3.
I
All right,
totally
so
forgot about him, like completely. I was just like, who else is in the house? Okay. He's
the
definitely
list
down
is
there.
Kuzi, Jonathan, Daniel, Anika, Vanessa, Claudia. Renee actually fell a spot this week to
Oh.
Renee 7th. Shania, Hope, Santina, Dan, Ty, Zach.
Yep.
There it
Okay.
is.
That makes sense. Wow, we basically got the bottom.
The bottom half.
Like
yeah.
the whole bottom. We got that. We just
The
didn't-
big story of the week is that Anika had a massive jump from she was 4th to last week to
Yeah.
4th place this week.
Wow.
Well, I felt like last week everyone was like, oh, well, she doesn't know what's going on. She's totally lost. And this week people are like, oh, wait a minute, maybe not. So
Yes.
I could see that.
Jonathan also made a bit of a jump from 5th place last week to 2nd place this week.
Because he wants to go against them.
Yeah.
He confronted Zach.
He's the resistance.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So now let's rate the players. Let's do it from 1 to 10 based on how well we think they're doing in the game. 1 being the worst, 10 being the best. Let's start with Anika. Anika is in an interesting position. She got a 4 last week. We all agreed at a 4. But I think my faith in her as a player is rising. And not only my faith in her as a player, but also maybe even like a little bit of that physical game with that workout. And her position is good to maybe not as good, depending on how this week plays out. So it's like, the thing is, I think Kuzi is making a decision that is not optimal for Anika and Daniel. However, they still benefit from it more than she does, because she's correct when she says this. If it fails, it should fall back on Kuzi unless she's got something magical going on. Right? And so that's not bad for Anika, especially since if Kuzi does fall, her and Daniel should be able to just skate by at that point. Because as much as those women might not target the men immediately, once there's no other threats, then it's maybe another story. But Kuzi at this point is unfortunately, I think, going to be seen as a threat. So Anika's position, I don't think is bad at all. My faith in her as a player has dramatically risen. And there are still ways for this week to turn out that are very good for her. And in fact, still overall, it's still a pretty good week for her in general. I'm kind of, just because there's still so much up in the air, I'm hesitant on a 7, but I'm kind of feeling a 6 for Anika. That's how I'm feeling for that. Melissa, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I feel like just as you said, she is showing us that she's got a better head for the game than we initially thought. And she's in a good position, and she's not going to go home this week, which is good. Like, that already buys her some more time. I'm a little nervous because I don't know what's going to happen if Kuzi ends up nominating Zach and Daniel's upset by it. It's like, what happens to their little trio? Is that going to be salvaged? Is it going to be a problem? Like, we don't really know. But I think generally she's in a good spot. Yeah, I'm debating whether I want to give a 5 or a 6. And I think I'll just be generous and give her a 6, because this is a good week for her, no matter really what happens, just because she's Kuzi's HOH and she's in a good position. And I feel like she's doing some good work with it. So I'll give her a 6.
All right. Aysha, what do you think?
Yeah, I feel good about Anika. It feels like she is slowly but surely every day learning a little bit more to be in a better position. And I'm just, I'm thinking about the future. And if I think about her in a few weeks, I could see her being in a very solid position socially, and maybe have a competition or two under her belt. So she is definitely somebody that is picking it up as she goes, which could be a force to be reckoned with because people will underestimate her, but she's actually thinking more about the game than they're assuming. And she is in a really good position this week. She is, being a great person to talk to for Kuzi. I'm assuming, I'm thinking that, she is well aware of what's going on. She's not taking the Daniel C approach. She's just like, okay, I'm going to support Kuzi for now. Maybe we could talk through everything, but I agree. We could go this route. So I will also give her a 6.
All right. Well, I can tell you the audience a little more conservative on the ratings this week. They gave Anika a 5. Still up from the 4 last week, but a 5 for Anika. Let's move on to so a big jump for Anika, going from a 4 to a 6. Probably already the best buy of the week, but we'll have to wait and see. Maybe things will change as we talk about Claudia. Melissa, how do you feel about Claudia?
I don't really know. I mean, I feel like still good about her. I think she's in a good spot. And like you said earlier, like there are moves for her moving forward, especially like, if the guys end up creating something with the 3 girls, like something could happen there. She has the girly pops. Like, so I feel like generally she's in a good spot. I don't really know if her position has really changed this week. I just don't know. So the fact is, she's seemingly safe this week. She's not a target. She can move forward into the next week, and she's still got everyone that she's working with still around her. So I'm just going to stick with my 6.
All right, 6 from Melissa. Aysha, what do you
think? Yeah, I think it is concerning that she is connected to one of the people that are most influential in the house right now with Ty, and still can't, like, he still doesn't feel comfortable enough sharing game information. So like I feel I see something in her to where she can do really well. It's just, is she going to be able to do that? Is she going to be able to stretch her wings and fly and be able to really play this game in a way that we're not just equating her to the girly pops or Ty's showmance? So it's tough because I do think the girly pops are in a good position this week, depending on either way it plays out with Kuzi's decision. However, if I'm looking at Anika as a 6, I don't know if I can say the same for Claudia, because if Ty is seeing her as expendable, it makes that whole connection unpredictable. So I'm gonna go ahead and do a 5.
A 5 from Aysha. All right, I can tell you the audience agrees with the 5. The audience gave Claudia a 5, but I'm wild. I'm wild today. You ready for this? I'm gonna go a little wild here, because here's the thing. I haven't seen Claudia this week. I have no idea what she's actually doing, but this is a new era of the Stock Watch. We have to give ratings, and in the interest of not always giving a range of 2 to 6, I'm gonna go a little wild here and say that I think that this week has been incredible for Claudia. Think about everything that's happening. Zach, her biggest nemesis, is leaving, which means she gets full control of Ty and everything that comes with Ty. On top of that, she seems to have made a new connection with Kuzi and the middle group. On top of that, she is the one that benefited most from Rob leaving, because now Jonathan is going to Claudia. Claudia is in the middle of the entire house. If we divide the house into 4 groups, the Kuzi group, the girly pops, the bros, and the resistance of Jonathan, Vanessa, and Santina, then Claudia is the one person who has incredibly solid connections with every single one of those groups and the power to completely take control of this game, should she have the I guess desire to do so. And so for those reasons, I'm gonna give her an 8.
Whoa. This
Wow,
new
that
era
is crazy.
Drop the stock, keep the watch.
Jeez.
Never know what's gonna happen.
Man.
Look,
thought it was gonna
we
be a
got
7.
you got to
I was gonna
take
think that was
risks.
wild.
You got to take risks with the ratings.
I guess so.
You can be as creative as you want with
Exactly.
this little of information.
True, we don't know. We have
Honestly, the
nothing.
more I know, the more I'm likely to be down on you in the game.
True.
She gets all the benefit of all the things the good things that are happening to her without the
Yeah, we don't
downside of
know.
me listening to her talk about things and realizing that she's not going to take advantage of it.
Right.
like it.
Right. Let's move on then to Daniel. Aysha, how do you feel about Daniel?
Daniel is tough one because I could just read into what he says. He's going to drop this. He's going to move on. But from how passionate he was about this decision being upsetting to him, it felt like he's prioritizing Zach over Kuzi for his game. Like if he had to make a choice, he would pick Zach, but he can't do that right now because Zach's not the one in power. And so I wonder just where he's, because he is such a fan of this game. He wants to be seen as a player, but he doesn't want people making decisions for him, thinking that they need to make those decisions because they're, as he says, like quote unquote, like looking out for them, or he's an adult. He can do what he wants. And I think, there's a time and place for that kind of thought. But if he shifted his perspective as they're just looking out for me, then he would be in a way better mindset. So I'm just concerned that he's going to continue to have this, think of things in this way where he wants to be taken seriously as a player, which, I mean, it's kind of the narrative that he's creating. Like no one knows he's a big fan. So they just see him as the fun guy that is great to have around, and they just don't know where he's at strategically. And I don't know how much truth that was to Kuzi saying she doesn't know if he can really, because we know that they're locked in. We know that those three are locked in. So she could have totally just been saying whatever to Ty. So I don't know. And I'm thinking like, okay, if Zach goes home this week, where does that put Daniel? Is he going to be vengeful? Is he going to say, oh, Kuzi, you took out my number one, so the first chance I get, I'm going to try to take out Ty or whoever you're close to at the time because you didn't care about me, so I'm not going to care about you in this decision, and you have to respect it. So, yeah. Because I'm looking at everybody starting at a 5 and just kind of fluctuating from there. So I think because we haven't seen him prove that will get over this just yet. This is tough. I'm between a 4 and a 5. I think I'm gonna just go 4.
A 4 from Aysha on Daniel. The audience is at a 5 for Daniel. And I'm even higher for sure on this one. I think I'm on the opposite end of the spectrum from you, Aysha, where I'm like, I haven't seen that this sort of outburst is going to damage his game in any meaningful way. That we see this happen a lot. He even said himself he'll get over it in a day. And the main thing for me is those diary room sessions, because the amount of people who said, I really trust Daniel. I really feel like Daniel's on my side. Even in the drops, we hear Hope saying like Daniel's my guy. For as much as he is remiss to lose Zach as one of the pieces on the board for him, he seemingly has picked up a lot of other pieces, including Shania, including Renee, who both talked about Daniel being a new person that they've really started to connect to in the game, which again could be very valuable for him, considering that these women seem to be on the rise in terms of their positioning. Being connected to them is going to be more valuable to him than I think even having been connected to Zach at this point. So I feel like Daniel is definitely in a good spot here moving forward. Again, not the optimal play to lose Zach here from Kuzi's move, but still benefiting from it more so than I think a lot of other people in the house. So I'm going to also give him a 6. Melissa, what do you think?
Well, I'm going to split the difference and give him a 5 because I feel like there are like pros and cons to his game this week, or what we've seen from him at least. And so it's like, I don't love that, he's, so upset about the Zach thing, and that he seems to be so like taken with Zach in terms of like thinking he's an ally. And like, I don't know if he is. I haven't really seen that from him, but at the same time, I haven't seen that from him. So like, it's totally possible that they have some sort of alliance going on that we just don't know about. And the people, are, like you said, singing his praises in the DR and saying that they trust him, they want to work with him, etc., which is good for him moving forward. But I am worried about how he handles this week. And if in fact him and Zach have an alliance together, well then, yeah, it's bad that he's losing Zach this week. So I do think that like, it kind of balances itself out. Like he's either losing a big ally this week, which is bad, or that person's not a big ally and he believes that person's a big ally of his, and he's like telling people that and like causing, a stir, and that's not good. Or, the reverse. So yeah, he gets a 5 from me.
All right. Let's move on then to Dan Zabo. I can tell you that the audience just barely gave Dan a 4 this week. They gave him a 4 last week as well. I gave him a 2 because of his poor HOH decision making. And let me tell you, I feel like in hindsight, I might have even given him a 1. And honestly, it's still theoretically possible he leaves this week, though not super likely at this point. But it was very possible that he could have. For a little while there, I was like, man, I really should have given him that 1 because he's about to go home. And his position is not great yet. However, Zach leaving is probably the best thing that could happen to Dan, because it opens him up to work with the women. And that's a great spot for him to be. Now, he's still not a very good player at this point. He pretty much only has connections to Shania. And now if Zach leaves, Ty, who doesn't even like him and wants him gone at some point. So not great, but he strikes me as the kind of player who could be left alone because he's so drama free. Again, Zach was the anchor dragging him down. If Zach leaves, he might be okay. So, I think things are kind of looking up for Dan overall. But can I go as high as a 4? Probably not. I got to give him a 3. Melissa, what do you think?
Yeah, I agree. I'm going to give him a 3 as well, because I do think like if Zach leaves, he's in a better spot this week, but there is the possibility that he goes home. And also, I don't even know if that's like a much better spot. So obviously things could turn around for him, but yeah, I think a 3 for me.
All right, Aysha.
Yeah, it's as if it feels like he has no one, because I don't even think I've said Shania's name on this podcast because I just know nothing about her at this point. And so if that's his number one ally, and the people that he thinks he can trust, he thinks that he can trust Ty and Zach so much, and if Zach leaves, and Ty just sees him as expendable, Ty would have no reason not to put him up if Ty were to win HOH. So it's tough because it's just like, okay, you have no one. And then even last week to see on the episode that he was just like, oh, I didn't feel good about that decision, but what's done is done. Who forced your hand? Who put your hand on, like, if we had the key box, who put your hand on the keys to select those? No one. So it's just, it doesn't make me feel confident about his abilities to just make decisions on his own without other people influencing it. So I'm going to actually go a 2.
A 2 for Dan. Well, let's talk then about hope, because I think I'm also at a 2 for hope. And let me tell you, it's close to a 1. But here's the deal. He has the veto. and he might use it on himself.
Oh, that's very valid.
I feel I'm close to giving him. Here's the deal. He shouldn't go home this week. But if he does, then obviously he deserves a 1. But would he actually go home? Who knows, right? Would he actually not use the veto on himself? That's yet to be seen. The fact that he didn't automatically say no to Ty, big knock on the gameplay there. And even if he does stay, he's shown himself to be perfectly willing to volunteer for the block constantly. So he gets. I'm giving him 1. I'm giving him 1.
You talked yourself into it.
Get it out of here. He's he's just a free nomination every time, and if he doesn't win a competition, then he's going to be a backup option in case something goes wrong or they need an easy out. Like, and then who's going to vote for this guy to win the game if this is all he's doing? Everyone's talking about it. Everyone's like, he's only here to play competitions. Like, does he know what show he's on? Why did he even come here? And there's a possibility, and the fact that it's a possibility means he has to be a 1, because there's a possibility that he has the veto and might go home this week.
Yeah, I think you just talked me into a 1 too. I was gonna give him a 2, but yeah, now I'm just sitting here like the fact that we're even talking about it. And I think like what matters even more than that is like, even if he does use the veto on himself, or even if he doesn't and he stays, like you're right. I don't see him winning, because even if he gets all the way to the end, it's still like, this has been like multiple weeks in a row where he's been like not in it, not playing. Like he wanted to quit. Now all he wants to do is play and win competitions. He's volunteering for the block. Like, that's not strategy. That's not like a Dr. Will move. That's literally just like him just wanting to play competitions. Like it's got to be a 1.
All right, Aysha.
Yeah, I think people always know the number one thing to Big Brother is being able to adapt. So even people that come into this game and have no idea what they're doing, at least they get to know what game they're playing. He thinks it's a game of basketball, and he loses these comps. He's like, put me up, put me out. I lost. I need to go home. I deserve it. I didn't win that competition. And it's just like, don't you realize the whole house was competing as well? Like, everyone else lost as well. There's only one person that went. He has no idea what game he's playing, and he's just so back and forth. And for Ty to be able to say, when do you want to go home? What are we doing? Where have we arrived at this point to where Hope just has control over just whenever he goes home, because he's going to want to go home at some point. He's just back and forth every day. Someone has to talk him out of wanting to go home. So just come on. You're not playing Big Brother at this point. You're just wasting space in the house, because it's just like people are having to consider you in these strategic plans. And you're like, wait, but do you think I'm 28 or 23? So it's just, it's so irrelevant. He's irrelevant in the house from a strategic standpoint. And I think that, that just cut your losses, go ahead, put him up and send him home. Because he's not winning this game. And really that's what this boils down to, people's potential. So yeah, I'm also a 1.
All right, there you go. The audience, a little more generous. They gave him a 3. A 3 for Hope.
Wow.
Okay. Let's talk about Jonathan. Melissa, what are your thoughts on Jonathan?
This one's tough because he really is like kind of on an island. But at the same time, like, I don't know if like people will want to take it upon themselves to target him, but maybe it is a situation where it's like an easy out because he's on an island. It's same with like Vanessa or whatever. At this point, it's like there's a difference between being alone in the game, being on an island, and like also nobody wanting to waste an HOH on you. But I feel like with Jonathan, like he wouldn't be a waste of an HOH, at least in people's eyes, because like he's seemingly like a strong competitor, he's athletic, et cetera. People like him. So like it wouldn't be considered a waste of an HOH. Like maybe it would be for like someone who is not as competitive or not as, well liked. I think this is tough because it's like I don't think it's something that like he has done, but he did lose his number one ally, and it's not like so far people have, I mean, at least as far as we know, so far people haven't like brought him into the fold like, oh, you're a lone wolf, come work with me, which is what people should be doing, but we haven't really seen that. So it's hard to say, whether or not he's been brought into something and he's in a good position or not. And I think until we see the episodes, we won't really know. So at this point, I think I do have to give him a 4, with the hope that will turn around.
All right, Aysha.
Yeah, I see him as on an island similar to how Dan is on an island. However, Dan has been able to have power, and he did what his allies wanted him to do. However, they still don't trust him. So he's on an island with like nowhere to go. Whereas Jonathan, with as loyal as he was to Rob, he would be a very loyal person to pick up. So I see him as like more like a free agent that people will understand, like, if I can get Jonathan on my side, we should be golden. And the fact that I think the guys still see him as a viable option to be picked up. And then we know that he has this relationship with Claudia. So I feel like he's in a good spot. I don't think that he's on the top of anybody's hit list, because everyone is so focused on each other. And I think it could benefit him, the fact that people can see him as a loyal number. So I say all that. So I'm gonna actually give him a 5.
A 5 from Aysha. The audience agrees with Aysha. They gave Jonathan a 5 as well. Last week I gave Jonathan a 5. I kind of felt like, with Rob potentially being targeted, Jonathan can either rise to the occasion and things can improve for him, or things can kind of degrade from there. And I felt like things degraded. However, then Kuzi won HOH, and she, in my eyes, has pulled Jonathan right out of the fire, because Zach leaving is so good for Jonathan, because Zach is the person that Jonathan publicly had an issue with. Ty still feels like he can get in with Jonathan, at least to a degree. And even if he doesn't get in with Jonathan, he feels at least Claudia does, which is in his mind kind of a bad thing right now, but also it's still worth a shot. And then, who knows what Claudia can manage to do, right? So I feel like Jonathan's position has improved from going down since the last time I gave him a rating. However, he's still somewhat vulnerable here because of potentially Kuzi's actions of creating an alliance with the women, leaving Jonathan as one of the only real sort of like options for, I think, a lot of people to target. And he's a kind of juicy target. He's like a big shot that doesn't piss anybody off. So there are a lot of people I could see winning HOH and just using Jonathan in that way. But at the same time, there's a lot of people that would, I think, leave him alone because he's not really worth a shot being taken at him. There's a little bit of like a season 10, like early season 10 Dan here, where I'm talking US, of course, where Dan really went down with the ship with Brian, voted for Brian to stay against the house, and then played up, hey, I'm a loyal ally, ready to be picked up. And then he was able to play, a free agent, double agent for a good half of that season just from that alone. Now, I don't think Jonathan is doing that intentionally or will play in that way, but the perception that Dan weaponized is something that I think Jonathan currently just has, which is still not the worst place to be until people start to see that he is somebody else's weapon. So if people start to see him as Claudia's weapon, that could be bad. But I think right now they just kind of see him as this dude floating out there that maybe is still, somebody who they can pick up. So for now, I'm still just kind of neutral on Jonathan. I'm going to give him a 5 as well. Okay, let's move on then to Kuzi. Aysha, what are your thoughts on Kuzi?
Like as a person, I love Kuzi. And even as a game player, I am not totally down on what she's doing this week. I would personally want Zach out too. So I don't blame her for that. But I also could see her thinking that if maybe she has it in her head that if she gets rid of Zach, she'll have Ty even more. And it's just like, okay, if Ty doesn't have Zach there, then maybe I can pull him in even more. But even with the way that conversation went with them yesterday, I could see it being, maybe she changes her thoughts on that. But I am, even though she has compromised her position as playing this middle by winning this HOH, I am proud of her for doing what she wants to do. Like, no matter what that is, I don't think that, it's not as tragic as putting up Anika and Daniel. That would be awful. But I think that there is a way to play this situation of either putting up Zach or Ty that would be okay for her, because even in that situation, unless the one that stays, like unless the one that stays wins HOH next week, or neither one of them goes home, are they really forgetting everyone else and saying we got to put Kuzi up? I don't know. I mean, maybe she would be like a backdoor option, but she seems to be a really great social player. And the fact that she still has a great social relationship with Ty, maybe it can be smoothed over. And the fact that Zach was so caught off guard, maybe he literally had no idea that she felt this way, because she has a good poker face when she is talking to him face to face. So because of that, I still have a lot of faith in her social game, even if she were to get out. I mean, let's be honest, getting one of them out is a really big move. So, it has to be done at some point. So I'm going to go ahead and give her a 7.
A 7 from Aysha. I can tell you, the audience agrees. They also gave Kuzi a 7, the highest by far of the week. The top 3 from the audience were, in fact, Kuzi, Daniel, and Anika, and Claudia. They were all the only ones over a 5. So yeah, Kuzi, this is a weird one, and I'm gonna go a little wild here again, because this is a rating that is heavily influenced by the fact that I don't have all of the information. Because I think in a normal circumstance, I'd look at this situation, I'd be like, I don't know about this Kuzi, and I'd feel like maybe a 5. At best, because I really feel like there are so many different ways this can go wrong. However, I don't know everything like I normally would, or at least be close to. And I have a lot of faith in Kuzi as a player. And so if I feel like she knows more than I do, and I feel like I've put faith into her as a player, and I think that she's capable of making good decisions, then I think that when I'm making this rating, I'm gonna put a little bit of that faith into Kuzi and say, okay, maybe she knows something I don't. And maybe I need to quell my own instincts here and say, I'll give her a 7. I'll say, I think there's a chance this works out, and that she's got a good, plan ahead of her. I have my doubts. If things go wrong, I'm going to feel like, damn, I was right. But right now I'm trusting Kuzi, and I'm giving her a 7. Melissa, what do you think?
I think I'm gonna be the party pooper here. But I just feel like the fact that her initial nominations were like, I want to put up Santina and Vanessa's a pawn, and even if she goes home, who cares? Which is like, that's not a good, like, first of all, that's a bad read on the house, is like, oh, she's a pawn, she's not gonna go if I put her up. And then also it's a bad read to be like, well, even if she goes, who cares? Like, that's fine with me. Like, that shouldn't be her thought process for this. And here's the thing is, she was talking to Ty there, so it's totally possible that that was not accurate, and that's not what she was thinking the whole time. That wasn't what she was going to do, or whatever. But even now, like, I feel like this could go poorly for her with the, putting up Zach. I mean, first of all, it could go poorly with her for her in regards to her relationship with Ty, but it also could go poorly for her in regards to her relationship with Daniel, because Daniel's already upset that she wants to do this. So I just feel like, and then the fact that there's already talk of like, well, she's a strong competitor because she won this HOH. She, we need to be worried about her. And, I feel like she becomes a target because of this week. And that makes me concerned because I don't want her to be a target. But from what I'm seeing, that's what I can see happening. So I'm going to give Kuzi a 6.
A 6 from Melissa. All right, let's then go and talk about Renee. I can tell you that the audience gave Renee a 4. A 4 for Renee. Man, this one's a tricky one for me because I really do feel like Renee is a huge beneficiary of this move. And she's not on the block. And she's got a good connection to Hope, who's about to lose Zach, probably, which is great. Lots of people are talking about how she's not worth targeting, which is great. She's got a great connection to Shania and Claudia, and is in probably the power position of the season. It's all looking quite good, I think, for Renee. But I'm not going to go higher than a 5. I'm going to give her a 5. And the reason why, a couple of reasons. One, she called herself a pawn star or block star, whatever it was. Don't like that. You're giving a perception of you that, yes, is going to make people less likely to target you, but it's going to then make people more likely to, A, use you as a pawn, and B, not respect you in the game, which is not good for you long term. And then the second main reason is that within the girly pops, she seems to be the one kind of the third. She's the third wheel a little bit. That Claudia and Shania mentioned that they were super tight, and that they were also tight with the girly pops in general. But neither of them really mentioned Renee as like their girl. So I think that she's also, like, her connection to Hope, I think, is the weakest and least valuable of the connections to the other guys in the house in terms of like other players going around. So if Claudia is like the head honcho of the women who are currently like in the best spot in the game right now, because she's got Ty, she's got Claudia, or she's got Ty, she's got Jonathan. She's also got, like, she's probably in a great spot within Shania and Renee. She's potentially got Kuzi. She's got a connection to Daniel. Like, she's in all of these things. Renee is, I think, in potentially the weakest spot of the women, but still in a decent spot, considering that the women, I think, are in a decent spot right now. So a 5. Melissa, what do you think?
Yeah, I think a 5 for me as well, because I am like, I do think she's in a good spot right now, but I am worried about this perception of like, oh, let's just throw her up there on the block. And like you said, I don't feel like she's doing anything to kind of combat that. So I am worried that that's an easy mark to just be like, okay, well, who else should we throw up there? Let's just throw her up. And then worst case scenario, she ends up getting voted out. So I'm hoping that that's not the case. And I hope she can kind of shed that, image of her, but we'll just have to see.
All right, Aysha.
Yeah, I think that y'all are I think y'all are on the right page with her. It's tough because she almost went home last week, and it was no doing of her own. It wasn't like, oh, Renee made a great move to turn Daniel and Anika and Kuzi. So I think she's expendable right now. I don't even see Claudia and Shania putting their neck out on the line for Renee when you're like, oh, aren't they a trio? You would think that would be the case. So she's not really, yes, she is benefiting this week by not going on the block, but that wasn't because of her. It's just because it's like, wait, why would I do that? Why would I waste a week on Renee? Would be the mindset. But that doesn't stop people from wanting to put her up and just take up a place. Hey, that's one less person that's mad because Renee's used to being on the block. So because of that, I think I'll have to go ahead and give her a 4.
All right. A 4 from Aysha. Okay. Let's talk about Santina. Santina currently on the block. Could have gone home. Still might. Not great. Even if she does survive, she has completely blown her connection to the women, it seems. Unless she's reconnected with them, and that's why Kuzi doesn't want to take her out again. Or now. Maybe things are looking. I haven't really seen Santina on the drops, so who knows? But the last we heard from these women is that they did not like Santina and they wanted her gone, which is not good. She doesn't even really have a great connection to Jonathan. They just came together to save Rob, but apart from that, it doesn't seem like they're super tight or anything. She doesn't really have a good connection to Vanessa either, so she doesn't even have like those outcasts on board with her. Zach leaving is probably the best thing that could happen to her outside of like not being on the block, because at least that gives her the opportunity to potentially get back in with the guys, which is not a good position to be in, but it's better than nothing. So just overall, not looking very good for Santina. And again, in addition to the fact that she very well could be going home this week, I'm going to have to give her a 2.
Yeah, I think her position is even worse than it was last week. I think, she's kind of lost her connection with basically everybody. And she really like is alone in the house. She's on an island, and they all know that. They're all saying that, and even she's saying like, I don't have anyone, which is not great. And I think like, there is a distinct possibility that she goes home. So yeah, I just feel like she hasn't really built anything with anyone. And even if she stays this week, like who knows what's going to happen for her next week. So I'm going to give her a 3.
All right, Aysha.
Yeah, she's been very invisible. So it's really hard to say what she's doing now that she has the block is on the block. Is she down? Is she sad about it? Is she coming up with a plan? Is she clued in on the fact that Kuzi might want to do something else? Where is she? Is she blowing up on somebody that we didn't know about that might make the episode? Maybe who knows? Because we had no idea that Vanessa was so vocal last week. Yeah, I do have to consider the fact that she is on the block, and it will take a couple of moving pieces for her not to go home. So, yeah, I mean, maybe, and if she was being a little bit active, she might be on the digital dailies. I'm not sure. So I think I'll have to agree with your 2, Taran.
All right, a 2 from Aysha. The audience gave Santina a 3. 3 from the audience. Let's talk about Shania. Melissa, what are your thoughts on Shania?
I don't really know. I just like don't know. I guess she's got the girly pops or whatever, so I guess that's good. And I don't really see people, talking about her. Maybe I'm missing something, or maybe we're just not seeing it, but I'm not really seeing people like talking about targeting her. I think she's kind of just like there, but she has the alliance to, back her up at this point, which is much better than Santina has. So yeah, oh God, I don't even know. I guess because I don't know, I'll just give her a 5. I don't know.
All right, a 5 from Melissa. Aysha, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, the only thing I know is maybe she's Claudia's right-hand man, and like, so that puts her in a good position. Like, Claudia would look out more for Shania than Renee. And what even is the connection between her and Dan? Is it romantic, or are
We've
they
heard more
friends?
talk about it than we have seen it itself.
Mm-hmm.
But according to the house, they're close.
Okay. I mean, all I know is that breakup with her and Rob. Well, you can't really break up if you weren't together, but it's really hard to say. So if I gave Claudia a 5, but I have more hope in Claudia. At least there's potential there. So with Shania, I think I'll just have to line her up with Renee and give her a 4.
A 4 from Aysha. The audience also gave Shania a 4. There you go. They agreed that Shania was on the same page as Renee. I'm going to be a little bit higher on Shania, though. As I said, I really do think that the women benefit a lot from this move and are in a really central position in the house. So I think that that is very good for Shania. In addition to that, being the closer person to Claudia, I think is going to benefit her. She doesn't have the pawn star reputation that Renee does. Her connection to Dan could prove very valuable moving forward into the future. So I'm going to give her a 6. That's what I'm going to do. Let's talk about Ty. Aysha, what are your feelings on Ty?
Ooh, yeah. Ty, I mean, he's moving. He's doing things in this house. He's saying things. Oh, see, that was triggered.
But
sorry.
how did my dogs hear that though? Because I have my headphones in.
They were hearing Ty's name and they were like, "Oh no!"
So weird.
Well, do you have one ear off?
I have one ear off, but
yeah, that's they can hear.
That is so weird.
Everything.
Okay.
But yeah, that's a first. So
They're
Ty,
talking.
right? Ty is. It's so interesting because, like I said, if the fan fiction plays out, he could be going home this week from his own doing. However, was that not the right move for him to immediately go tell Zach? That is his number one. He should, keep him in the loop. But I feel like he didn't know how to finesse that in a way for Zach to truly understand what needs to happen. The problem with Ty, I think he just says things without giving the proper justification to make someone else believe why it should be the thing. Like even with Kuzi, he's like, no, Renee is the right move. What? Like, give me some reason. Show me why it benefits me rather than saying like everything else is just BS. So I think he lacks like a finesse in this game.
Mm-hmm.
And yes, he's overly honest. But there comes a point when, okay, I can tolerate your honesty, but still it doesn't align with my game. So it really puts me in a tough spot. And I see last week is a 5. And because I don't think he's in a better position this week. You would think with Kuzi as HOH, maybe he would be in a better position, but he's not at all. And I know that Kuzi says like he's off limits, but that's for her. You still have Daniel and Anika saying we would prefer him to go over Zach. So it could very well be a situation. If he isn't on the block this week, he could end up on the block next week because people don't want to tolerate him trying to control every HOH. So this is a tough one. Because the 4s I've given out, it would have to be a 4 for a different reason, but I still think he has some influence in the game. But he's not even pulling Claudia in. It's just not. He's not even using his.
Mm-hmm.
He's not using his resources. Come on, help yourself, Ty. So yeah, given all of that, I think I have to give him a 4.
All right, a 4 from Aysha. The audience agrees. They also gave Ty a 4. I'm also going to agree. And honestly, I considered going lower. I think he's played this week terribly. I mean, think about it. Like his number 2 ally won HOH, and he has completely lost her. And is about to lose his number 1 ally. So Ty in the game has just lost his number 1 and 2 allies. And almost entirely due to like his own mistakes. Trying to targeting Rob for no reason last week. Just the way that he is operating the house. At the time of the diary rooms, I was like, okay, Ty's maybe got something going on, but at this point, everyone knows what's going on with Ty, and everyone sees that he is a huge threat, it seems. And so that didn't last very long. I'm rating him only on his gameplay, like in the last week, it's low. It's like a 2 or a 3. I mean, how do you like this guy went from a great position to totally tanking it. And it's entirely due to his own actions. However, he was still in a high enough place that I think that, he does still have some outs. Even if Zach leaves, like I said, I think that he can still work this game. He's still potentially got hope and potentially has Dan and potentially has Claudia. So I'm also going to give him the 4 here, but this could be basically, I think over the next few weeks, I think Ty is either on a steep downward slope, or he's going to kind of like stop, recover, and kind of come back up. But in order for that to happen, I think he needs to be playing a different game. And maybe he does without Zach there to like bounce off of. But right now, I just don't see the way that he's playing being a game that can last for much longer than the same way that I said it about Zach. So yeah, 4 for me. Melissa, what do you think?
Yeah, I agree, honestly. When the diary room sessions came out and everybody was saying that they trust Ty and that he's like a lot of people's number ones, I was very surprised by that. But I was like, okay, like I guess he's doing something right. But I feel like ever since then, I just haven't seen any good gameplay from him. I feel like the way he talks to people is just so condescending and so just like it's not good. I mean, when he like kind of laughs at you when you're trying to talk to him and it's like he's not really paying attention and kind of like I just his conversation with Vanessa was very upsetting to me. And it's just and the way he like goes around recapping that and how he was like totally like owned her, it's like, okay, this is garbage. And I just feel like number one, he's losing Zach this week potentially. And that's not good for his game. That's his number one. And like you said, with Kuzi doing this, I mean, that's not great. And I just feel like every conversation I've seen him in has not been good. He doesn't do anything right with his showmance. It's like he's not utilizing it. And just like the way you're supposed to have a conversation with someone on Big Brother is like, you're not supposed to just be like, no, this is what you do. No, this is what you have to do. It's like you have to make them believe that they are coming up with this idea, but really it's your idea. Like you have this idea in your head. You have to like go around the idea so that way they believe, oh, wait, actually, I'm coming to I have this great idea. And okay, it just so happens to be your idea. Like that's the way you handle things. You don't just like talk at people and tell people, no, this is what you have to do. Like it's just, and I feel like both Ty and Zach are very much of that kind of play where it's like they just tell you what to do. And it's like nobody wants that. Nobody wants to hear that. They want to feel like they're having an actual conversation with you. They don't want to be talked at. So yeah, I'm gonna give Ty a 4. I just don't really know where he goes from here.
All right, let's move on then to Vanessa. The audience gave Vanessa a 4, same as last week. And I think Vanessa has just gotten straight 4s since week 1. She's never gotten anything other than a 4. I'm not gonna break that trend today. I'm gonna give her a 4. She's not in a great spot, but she is actually because I think like what happened with Zach was bad for her position wise. The bros are against her now to a degree. Nobody really seems to want to work with Vanessa. That's all same news. But what I do think that it did is that like if for some reason Vanessa does make it deep in the game, I do think she actually has a resume to point to, which is that like, hey, I stood up in the early game. Like I was making moves. I was calling people out. Like that's more than I think a lot of players in this position can say when they don't really have any allies and there's not really any agency there in the game. So I think it's a little bit of a double-edged sword there where it actually does have some benefit. But she's also an easy target. She doesn't seem to have any solid allies. I could honestly go lower than a 4. I could maybe go to a 3 at this point, but I think the house is with Zach leaving. I think that's good for her, and I think the house is in enough chaos that there's some potential there for her to continue to move forward. But what do you think, Melissa?
Yeah, I was gonna go down on her this week, but I feel like if Zach leaves, that's really good for her game. And like maybe there is a way for her out of this spot that she's in, which is like in no man's land, and she's just like on an island, and people think of her as expendable. Like I don't want that for her. So my hope is that with Zach leaving, or if Zach leaves, that she can kind of find a spot in the house, and she's not really looked at as just like an easy mark. So she goes down, but then also comes up because I think Zach is leaving. So I'm going to give her a 4.
All right, Aysha.
Yeah, I wouldn't want to break the streak. I'll give her a 4 too. I think we're lacking so much information with her that it's so hard to go either way. We don't know who she's like 100% locked in with, and it's just really hard to see. Like, yeah, we heard that she was a consideration, but was that just the plan I'm telling people, or was that the actual plan? So it's as if it's what people do this season rather than what they say, which is hard because you can only do something when you have won something. So yeah, I think it'd be hard to go either way unless she really starts to align with people. Maybe she is aligned with people and we just don't know it. I don't know how we can start to see more of her.
Scott makes a good point that I had forgotten, which is I don't know why she was lying about her vote last week. I'm gonna break this for a 3.
Great. Boo, Taran. Boo.
What is she doing? Why is she lying about that vote? It made no sense.
You're ruining this for all of us, honestly. You put that 4 back.
Apparently apparently she won the Circle K morning routine, Mike said in the chat.
So. Oh boy.
Comp threat right there.
All right. Finally, let's talk about Zach. I mean, he's probably going home this week. And it's entirely due to literally every decision he's made in the house so far. And the way that he treats people. This guy, he has one good thing about him, which is that he's an active player. And like everything else, his strategic sense is terrible. His social game is terrible. Competitively, he did win a veto. So I'll give him that. Maybe he's not terrible at competitions, but if anything, being terrible at competitions might have helped him because then he would have been seen as less threatening. Why did he win the veto last week? He didn't need to. He's more of a threat because now he's won a veto. This might be my only chance, and he surely deserves it. It's a 1. It's a 1 for Zach.
Wow. Well, I'm not going to give him a 1 just because we don't even know if he's on the block. I feel like I'm just like, I don't even know if he's on the block yet. So I have no information. I'm not as confident. So yeah, I don't think he's playing well. I think you're totally right that he should not have won the veto last week. It just did not make any sense. And I just feel like even in all of this, even like at least Ty has going for him that everybody or a lot of people like Ty and trust him and want to keep him around. With Zach, I feel like there's only a few people who want to do that. And I don't think it'll make a difference. So I don't feel great about his chances this week, but I don't feel like I think if he's on the block, I think he will go home. But I don't even know if he's on the block. But even so, I feel like even if he's not on the block, he'll probably be on the block soon. Like I don't see a situation where he ends up winning. Yeah, I guess a lot of people want him out. I guess I'll give him a 2.
A 2 from Melissa. Aysha, what do you think?
I was in between a 1 and a 2. But then you got me thinking about that veto. The thought didn't even cross his mind that he should have let Hope win it. And that tells me everything I need to know about Zach in this game. How does that not cross your mind? How does it not cross your mind to not have to make that move? If you could just let a nominee win, they're going to take themselves down anyway, and you could still get your way by influencing. But it was just like one track mind. There's no, to claim to know the game so well. I couldn't believe he admitted that to Ty, that this is not, how would he think of it? Why would he think of that? As if that's just a new thought. So, I mean, I gave Hope a 1, not knowing if he actually used the veto on himself. We don't know if Zach is on the block or is going on the block, but if Zach has anything to do with it, he's on the block. If he talks to Kuzi before the veto ceremony, there's no way he is able to just smooth it over, make things better for himself, and have her change her mind. And with what we saw with Ty, he's not able to do that either to prevent her from putting up Zach. So I'm going to go ahead and do a 1-2.
A 1 from Aysha. The audience gave Zach the lowest rating of the week. They gave him a 2. So there you go. Those are the ratings for the week. We did it. We made it. And there's still a lot of game left to be played this week. So we'll have to wait and see, I suppose. Any final thoughts, Aysha?
I'm interested to see how this week plays out, because it could be very entertaining depending on what happens with this veto. And I mean, even each episode, just finding out more about these people. I don't even care if it has to be through a Circle K ad. If I can just get a few words from Santina, I think that could help. We can read between the lines of where her head's at with how she loves these potato chips. You're like, okay, she's being a little active. So yeah, looking forward to this week. Things are on the slow incline. I think if we could get those, if they continue those diary room sessions, if we can get them earlier in the week, that'd be awesome, because then that would give us a better idea heading into the eviction. Because the eviction is supposed to be a reset. If we're getting things after the eviction, it's really trippy to think of last week.
You definitely get that before
Right.
before the week resets, and it doesn't matter anymore.
Exactly. So yeah.
I think it's interesting that like our HOH has the highest rating this week. I feel like we don't normally see that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So good for Kuzi.
There you go. Melissa, any final thoughts?
Nope. Just I'm interested to see what happens this week. I don't really have skin in the game as far as who goes home this week, so I don't really care. But I think there's pros and cons to having Zach go. I think, there is some entertainment to be had by having Zach stick around. But I think there's also, good reasons for Zach to go. So yeah, I don't know. Be interesting.
All right. Well, let's take a quick look at the leaderboard updated.
Okay, I forgot again, and I'm very sorry.
We got Doom and looks like quite a lot of people here. 28 other people up here tied for first. I think they all went in on Kuzi this week. Kuzi yet again the best buy, it seems. So look at that.
I haven't started playing yet.
We're so bad.
I am at 259. Not a great week for me. I went in on Daniel.
Ooh, yikes.
And you guys cheated me out of that. He deserved a 6. I've been graced with guests that have given me things I shouldn't have gotten before, so I'll take this one. All right, that's what we have for you this week. Make sure you tune in tomorrow, where I will update you on the latest from the Big Brother Canada 11 house, at least from what we get from it. We will likely see the result of the veto ceremony and renomination, as well as, what's it's looking like. Is Zach going to be up and on his way out? Is Hope going to have used the veto? Who knows? But we will also be live tomorrow night after the episode to talk through what we see of the HOH episode, see what Kuzi's real plan was the whole time. And I'll be live on Twitch, twitch.tv/Taran Armstrong, watching the episode live with all of you. So you can come and hang out with me there. You can find me on Twitter at Armstrong Taran. Check out the Among Us videos I'm posting over on YouTube. And that's about what I've got. Aysha, what do you got going on?
Yeah, so quite a lot going on right now. But if you subscribe to the Love at First Sight feed, you can find most of what I'm doing. So right now I'm talking about the show Married at First Sight with my co-host Jason Reed over on our podcast called A Perfect Match. We are talking about episode 12 is out. So we're talking about episode 13 this week. So we have a great time talking about Married at First Sight. You don't have to watch the show. Just come listen to the podcast. We'll fill you in on everything you need to know, all the drama. Also, Love is Blind season 4 just came out. Episodes 1 through 5 are out there on Netflix. So Mary Kwiatkowski and I got together to talk about those 5 episodes, give all of our thoughts and reactions. So that is also available here on the Robert Has a Podcast YouTube channel and on the Love at First Sight feed. I also joined the Top Chef RHAP Up to talk about episode 3 of season 20. Had a great time over there with LaTanya and Haley. And then let's see. Also, joined the Bachelor RHAP Up last week. The finale is happening right now, so it's probably already outdated. But I also hopping over to post show recaps to talk about the show You, to do the feedback show with LaTanya and Marissa Garza. So if you go subscribe to Love at First Sight feed and then follow me on Twitter and TikTok at Aysha Like Aysha, you will see what I'm up to.
That's too much stuff. We need to stop that.
I have the time because we don't have feeds.
Oh my God, wild.
There it is. All right. Well, you can of course find Melissa at It's Melissa with 3 A's.
Yep.
Thank you all so much for joining us here tonight. And we will see all of you next time.